Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. All right, well, the ATF is up to their shenanigans again. I might as well just rename this channel what is the ATF up to channel, because that it seems like when it comes to Second Amendment stuff, that's all I ever seem to talk about these days is all the crap that the ATF has going on and then what are they up to next. So anyway, we're gonna have a chat about this, and my good friend John Crump, good personal friend of mine, great guy. He writes over on Ammo Land. Make sure you support Ammo Land. They're a great group of people. But he's got an article here that kind of breaks down these new changes. They've tried to change the definition of what a gun dealer is, of course, through just some arbitrarily applied fiat. So we'll see. Let's get into this. Before we get started, I would like to thank our friends at CMMG for supporting our videos. They have some awesome stuff in the AR category. I love their bufferless descent line. They're absolutely fantastic. I love the little 9mm they make, the folding stock. It's so awesome. Side charging handle, which is great. Also, they have their new Mark 47 in the bufferless descent line, which is a great piece of gear. I've got a full video on that rifle if you want to check it out. It's amazing. They got some great 22 conversion kits. The best 22 conversion kit on the market by far is made by CMMG. Great piece of gear. One of my favorite pieces of gear for training. You can take any AR, drop the bolt in, and convert it to 22, which is awesome. Check them out, CMMG, and tell them Eric sent you. Great group of people. All their stuff's made right here in the U.S. By hardworking Americans. Arming the free folk. Okay. Let's get into this. The ATF unveils a new change to the definition of a gun dealer. All right. Now, this is from some time back. Just so you know, when I'm reporting on some of these articles, I use the article as kind of like a spring bed to sort of give you some information, and then I elaborate on it. So this is not necessarily meant to be, I guess, news per se. I don't always try to hit on these things like right when they happen. I always try to let it marinate a little bit and kind of think about it and let the information fully get in there and manifest. I don't like to be sensational and jump on things right when they happen. I like to let it marinate like a nice little stew. Okay, so we're going to get into this. This may not be news to some of you, but I like to give my thoughts on it. And y'all seem to like this format, so we're going to keep it up. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, sounds like a convenience store actually, has unveiled its new rule defining what a gun dealer is. The rule will not go in effect until 30 days after it was posted to the Federal Register. The ATF decided to issue a new rule on who is required to get a federal firearms license at the behest of the Biden administration. The Bureau claims it was granted the power to change the rule under the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, passed with some Republican support. Although many gun groups warned Congress of the dangers of passing the bill, their concerns were ignored, and the significance of the bill was downplayed by Republicans like John Cornyn. Oh my gosh, that guy, man. Let's see. The new ATF regulation would require thousands of private sellers to get FFLs for selling as little as a single firearm. The rule changes a dealer from someone who sells a gun with the principal objective of livelihood and profit to predominantly earn a profit. According to the new rule, the government doesn't have to prove the seller intends to make a profit by selling the firearm. The rule puts the burden of proof on the accused. The seller would be presumed to be in business and an unlicensed dealer, although this rule only applies to civil and administrative cases due to the presumption of innocence in criminal cases. The rule says the jury in criminal cases can be told of a person being found acting as an unlicensed dealer in a civil case, which many see as a legal loophole. Simply advertising a gun for sale on a website, placing a sign on their firearm would make them a dealer even if no money is paid to advertise. Many people attend gun shows to sell their unwanted firearms and put a barrel flag in the muzzle with a price. According to the rule, they would automatically become an unlicensed dealer. Using a service like Arms List would also make a person a gun dealer under the new rule because it specifically calls out using websites to sell firearms. Gun owners are no longer allowed to rent tables at gun shows to sell their collections. Although most likely unrelated, the ATF recently raided the home of the executive director of an airport in a no-knock raid, shooting and killing the man for selling firearms at gun shows. It was not against regulations to sell guns at a gun show when federal agents gunned the man down. Based on this decades-long body of experience, the proposed rule provided that Absent reliable evidence to the contrary, a person would be presumed to have the intent of predominantly earning a profit when the person, 1, advertises, markets, or otherwise promotes a firearms business, advertises or posts firearms for sale, including on any website, establishes a website or selling for sale their firearms, making, basically an entire laundry list of things that I'm not going to bother to read through here. Let's see. 3, if they make or maintain records in any form to document, track, or calculate profits and losses. Of course, and they give a whole laundry list here. 4, the purchases or otherwise secures merchant services. They formally hire or otherwise secure business security services. Formally or informally establish a business entity, trade name, or online business account. They secure or apply for a state or local business license to purchase or resell merchandise that includes firearms. They purchase business insurance. Any of those types of things can be considered being in the business of selling guns. Now, there are some concerns that I have with some of these bullet points because, all right, let's go back to number 1, advertises, markets, or otherwise promotes. Well, for instance, if I shared a link somewhere on Twitter, for instance, to a Palmetto State Armory product that happened to be a firearm, okay, am I a gun dealer because I shared a link to a firearm that the person that is selling it is a gun dealer? I'm not a gun dealer. They are. See, so in black and white, they could literally say, well, you're advertising, marketing, or otherwise promoting. To promote firearms, you have to have a license. Come on. If the firearm never even changes hands of the person that even promoted it in the first place, there's a lot of weird connotations with this that leaves the door wide open to some really sketchy stuff. And I think that's obviously the concern we should all have. I have a vested interest in being concerned about this because of what I do for a living. However, I think that what the far worse implication is Joe Blow, who, doesn't know any better and decides to sell a gun and just wants to liquidate something in his collection and get rid of it. And now he's run awry of the law unknowingly. And of course, the ATF really loves to pin people on that sort of stuff. Oh, well, ignorance is no excuse of not knowing, right? No excuse of the law. No excuse to break the law. Ignorance isn't an excuse. But the thing is, if you arbitrarily change the rules, and if those rules are subject to, your individual discretion on a case-by-case basis, well, then it gets into some KGB territory, because then it's just, well, you show me the man, I'll show you the crime. They're going to cook up a crime. Don't worry. They're going to figure out a way. And what this does is it gives them enough weaponization where they can go, well, we may not get them here, but we'll get them somewhere else. And that's very unfair to make such a difficult burden. At what point does a firearm belong to you as a person, and at what point is it your property? I mean, this really gets into property rights too, because once a firearm leaves an FFL and you've done your paperwork, it's your property to do with what you wish. It belongs to you. It doesn't belong to the state anymore. As long as that firearm is not crossing state lines or otherwise in some... not that I even believe this is a real thing, but in some illegal NFA configuration or something like that. To me, there's no such thing as an illegal configuration of a gun. I think everybody should be able to have machine guns, short barrel rifles, suppressors with no, extra weird paperwork or anything like that. However, it does paint a very concerning picture for who this is really going to apply to and what they're really trying to accomplish with this. This is really meant to be a blanket weaponization of their organization that is purposely designed to be confusing and arbitrary in nature. And I think there's not a person out there that doesn't see that for what it is. A person will also be considered a dealer if they sell a firearm for more than they make in a specific period. If a law-abiding gun owner buys a gun in January and then loses their job the same month, they will not be able to sell their firearm to make ends meet if the amount exceeds the income that they made during the same period, because they would require them to get an FFL. If an FFL shuts down and transfers the remaining stock into their private collection, that former FFL is forbidden from selling any of those guns for at least a year. Not only could they not sell their firearms for cash, but they could not trade for any other items, since the law says trading guns for services or other items is the same thing as taking cash payment. Home-based FFLs also face more significant challenges. Firearms for sale and personal guns used to be able to be stored in the same physical location if they were separated. Now, the rule expands the regulation to require each firearm from a person's collection to be tagged with a physical tag that the gun is not for sale. I actually already do that. I've been doing that for years, but that's mainly just so I don't get them mixed up. To violate this rule, a person doesn't have to sell a gun or have the firearm in question in their possession. Merely stating that you could get a gun and sell it is enough to bring down the full force of the ATF on you. Many liken this to pre-crime in the Minority Report movie starring Tom Cruise. Many see this rule as a backdoor universal background checks, and multiple gun groups are planning legal challenges to the rule. And of course, it goes on to discuss. Great reporting, Crump. Look, there's a lot of things to be worried about with this type of thing coming through, okay? Right now, the Supreme Court is looking very strongly at the frame and receiver rule. We know that Michael Cargill is, the bump stock case is working its way through the Supreme Court with Michael Cargill right now. We know the brace situation is going its route. So, they are definitely abusing some of the administrative rulemaking processes in the worst way possible. They don't have the authority to do any of this. They don't. They claim that this bipartisan Safer Communities Act gives them the ability to do this. I'd really like to see where that wording lies. I don't believe that for one second. If they could do it, they would just do it through Congress, period. If they wanted universal background checks, they would just pass universal background checks. That's essentially what this is a way for them to say, well, you sold a gun and it didn't go through an FFL, so therefore we're just going to treat you like a criminal no matter what the circumstance is. That's essentially what they're doing here. If you go to a gun show or sell a gun to an individual, they're going to treat you like a criminal. That's essentially what they're saying. And it doesn't matter if the law went through Congress or not, or the rule or the change or the policy, if it went through Congress. It doesn't matter. What matters is how they're going to treat you, what they're going to do to you, and the justification that they're going to give you for doing it. And this is a red herring. It's totally just a excuse for them to treat anyone who doesn't buy or sell guns through an FFL as a criminal. And that's scary. They want universal background checks. It's just really random what they're doing. And, this isn't about safety. This is not about making people safer. This is not about, reducing crime or anything like that. This is about making them feel better about their own safety. They're concerned about their safety. Because there's been a lot of things happening in this country that a lot of people aren't happy about. And people are arming themselves record numbers. And I think they want to know who those people are. That's really all this is about. This is not about, some fuzzy feeling of, if every firearm had to have a background check attached to it, that's going to make people think twice about committing a crime or something. That ain't nothing to do with that. They want to know who's buying them. They want to know whose guns are changing hands where and how much. And I think it also has some pretty alarming tax ramifications too. I mean, if you owned a gun that you bought, 15 years ago, all right, let's just remove the factor of what you paid for it. Doesn't matter what you paid for it. But say you went to a gun show and sold it for cash. Well, no one knows that gun is out of your collection. So the IRS, you could come knocking on your door. And, with this opens up the door for the IRS to go, oh, well, we saw that and this time you sold 30 guns, and here's the paperwork. We know you transferred them. We want to know what you bought it for, what you sold it for. We want to see the profits. Oh, and give me them profits. They always want their money. They always have to have their life tax. Everything is all about money and them trying to get an extra tax out of you. And that's what it comes down to. They're going to use this for tax ramifications. They're going to use this for, deeper scrutinization of licensees. They're going to do it to infringe on your privacy. And ultimately what things like this do is it's ultimately about confiscation at the end of the day. They want universal background checks so that they can have gun confiscation when it comes down to it. That's their ultimate goal. So we have to fight this at every turn. We cannot allow these types of things to stand, especially when none of this goes through Congress and doesn't have any kind of congressional approval, right? If you're not happy with what your reps are doing, you need to vote their butts out of office, right? People like John Cornyn are absolute freaking scum when it comes to what they say they're going to do versus who they really are and what they're supposed to represent, right? John Cornyn is one of the worst that are out there. Like, people like him are the reason that these kind of things happen, right? Because they allow it to happen. So, look, if your elected representatives are doing this kind of stuff, if you're a Republican and your reps are doing this, you need to vote their butts out. Like, we can't have weak-kneed people right now. We have got to, look, this is an election year. We got to come in hard, and we've got to get these people to see and understand that we mean business. And that, if you're not friendly to the Second Amendment, we're going to boot your butts out of office. Like, that should be one of the number one Republican, running objectives, is for them to make sure their constituents know that their vote is always going to be solid when it comes to the Second Amendment, and they will take absolutely zero compromise when it comes to your rights. And, I would even argue that that's becoming more of a thing even for people on the other side of the aisle. There are a lot of Democrats that are saying, hey, stay away from my guns, They might support a lot of the social, points of view that the Democrats have, but they may not be down with the, gun control and stuff like that. So I think that these politicians, be they left or right, Democrat or Republican or anywhere in the middle, I think that they really do see the line in the sand being drawn that, people are not going to have it when it comes to their gun rights. And, you have to get people in there that see your point of view and see your way on the Second Amendment. If not, this is the kind of stuff that happens. So anyway, great reporting there, Crump, on that. Looking great. And check out AmmoLand, great website. Follow me on Twitter, IraqVeteran8888. Over there on Twitter, I post all different kinds of stuff, links and deals, behind-the-scenes photos, little commentary, good bit of political commentary. So if you want to hear more from me, that's definitely where I'm the most active, is over on Twitter. So make sure that you give me a follow over there, and we build that Twitter page up a good bit. That's where I'm the most active. Thank you so much. Many more videos on the way. Lots of stuff coming. We'll see you soon.